Before I review this dagger here, a short disclaimer. I bought it using my own money, no one's asked me to do this video, and no one's paying me to do it. Shortly about my background. So, I am a HEMA practitioner and a HEMA instructor. I practice and train German longsword, but I basically have no idea about daggers. I've read some manuals about them, but my knowledge is really superficial. So, yeah, not an expert on daggers in any way. Let's start with a short overview. The dagger is a Todd Cutler piece, more specifically the studded grip rondel dagger TC58. It's based on two German daggers in the Rothenburg collection. They are dated from 1425 to 1450. The Todd Cutler site specifies that this style of dagger is suited for 1425 to 1500. So, shortly about the specs of the piece, basically size and so on. I'll put all the numbers on the screen so you can just basically take a look, and if you're not interested in hearing me ramble about them, you can just skip the next part of the review. But let's get to notes. So, the length of the piece. The length of my dagger here is 45 centimeters, from the pin block here to the tip of the blade. The Todd Cutler site also says that the size of this dagger is 45 centimeters, so nice job. They are exactly on point with that. Then if we move to the grip, so how I measured this is, I guess, pretty important. My measurement is from inside the rondel to inside the rondel, so basically only the length of the wooden part here where you can actually jam your hand. For this dagger the length is 10.3 centimeters. The site, however, says that the grip is 10 centimeters long. Again, don't know how they've measured it, but yeah, I guess it's the inside of the rondels. So there's a difference of something like 3%. Yeah, it's pretty okay, especially in this price category. So the blade length. I measured mine from the point to the rondel. My measurement was 33.5 centimeters. The site specifies 34 centimeters, so again, a bit of a difference. If my math is correct, 1.5%. So again, in this price point, really not that much. Blade thickness, measured from the spine here, as close to the rondels as I could get. And my measurement, 8 millimeters. So says the site, so on point again. The site doesn't actually give a weight for this piece, but my measurement is 475 grams, so this is quite a hefty piece for a knife or a dagger. Speaking of the price, this piece here costs 105 pounds or 123 euros. So that is for the butter knife sharp version, which basically means like there's an edge profile, but there's not an edge. Mine is sharpened, and that goes for 10 pounds more, which I think is, or at least was, something like 12 euros. So mine has a proper edge. It's sharp, like it cuts paper, but it's not like sharp. If you'd want to sharpen it to a like really fine edge, you'd have to do it yourself. And the site also has a disclaimer about that, so that's what they promise and that's what you get. So what actually comes with this dagger when you order it? So obviously the dagger itself, but it also comes with a sheath. So it's a wedge and sheath, so leather, nothing special. It doesn't have any kind of lining, so there's no wood lining, nothing like that. And it has a metal shape. I'm not actually sure what kind of a metal it is. I don't think the website specifically says it. If I'd have to guess, I'd say maybe brass, but don't hold me to that. So, might be, might not. The sheath comes in a variety of colors. I can't remember out from the top of my head what the color options are, but there's like 4 or 5 different colors you can choose from for no extra cost. Mine is natural, so no coloring added. Yeah, so that's the basic specs. Now let's take a closer look at the different parts of this dagger. Let's start a closer look at the pin. So this is a pin dagger. It has a tang which goes all the way through the grip, and then it has a pin block, and then it's pin. So as said, it has a pin block which is not steel, some kind of a different metal. I'd guess it's brass, don't know, and if I remember correctly, it also didn't specify on the web page. But brass or something similarly colored, don't know what it actually is. It has some simple decorations, and I think the pin block gives a nice contrast to the steel of the rondel, so looks really nice. All I can say about the pin is that it's really clean and nicely done. No errant hammer marks, no missed strikes, no marks on the pin block or the rondel itself. Next, the rondels. So this piece has two rondels. Quite often, at least from my knowledge, quite often the rondel daggers have two rondels, but not always. So they might only have one rondel at one or the other end. This one has two, so one at the end of the dagger and one at the other side of the grip. I think these are steel. I'm pretty sure they are actually steel. From what I can tell, these are not hollow, so they are one solid piece of steel. And they are not completely flat, so there's a bit of shape for them. They are just a little bit thicker at the middle, and then they narrow towards the edge. So just a small detail. Then there's some kind of a serration, something like that, going around the rondel at both sides at the edge. So there's basically just small pieces of the rondel being filed away, giving kind of a wavy pattern if you look it from the outside. So small details here and there, but they add up to the overall look of this piece. And I kind of like it. It's quite simple, but it's not plain. So there's a bit of things which catch your eye, and I really like it. Then the most eye-catching part of this dagger, and where it also gets its name. So the studded grip. The grip itself is wood, don't know what kind of wood, but some kind of a light wood. From what I can feel, I'd say it's round. I really can't feel any specific shape which would allow me to index the dagger better, so for me it's round. And then the special thing is that it has these steel studs all around the grip, and it looks really eye-catching. I'd say you either like it or you don't like it, but it's something different, it's something special. I personally really like it. I think it looks nice. And the thing you might say is that it looks horrible in hand, or it looks like it feels horrible in hand. I'll talk more about this in the handling or the performance part of this review, but I'll just say now that it doesn't. It's really not as bad as you think. It's not the most comfortable grip, yeah, sure, but it's not as bad as you think. I think it's okay. Then the blade. So as said, mine is 33.5 centimeters and the page promises 34, so yeah, thereabouts, something like that. But it is a long blade. It's also a thick blade, so it starts 8 millimeters at the base, and the thing is that it doesn't really taper down. So it stays 8-ish millimeters or close enough all the way almost to the tip, and then it quite quickly narrows down to a really rigid point. So there's going to be absolutely zero flex on the blade. It's made to penetrate stuff, go through resistive material, be it, I don't know, bones, padded cambesons, mail, anything like that. If something can grow through, this will. It's not going to give in. It has a bit of a special cross section for the blade. As for the first 1/3 or so, 1/3 maybe closer to half the blade, there is a false edge. It's not sharp. I don't even know if it's supposed to be sharp. I'd say if I'd plan to use this as a weapon, I'd sharpen it, just so that I'd have an edge there as it's possible. But historically, don't know. But yeah, there's a false edge there, and then it just goes to be a completely flat spine. So for the last 2/3 or a bit over half of the blade, it's a triangular section, so flat, and then it just goes straight to the edge of the blade. The back of the blade, it's basically a diamond cross section. It's just that the spine of the diamond cross section is really high up. One thing I'd like to mention here is that at the intersection of the rondel and the blade, more specifically where the blade or the tang goes through the rondel, there's a visible slot. It's not for the whole size of the blade, it's just wide enough or high enough for the tang to go through, but you can see clearly that it's a square hole and it comes out, pokes out from the sides. I generally don't really like these kinds of things. My basic reason for that is that gunk can get in, stuff can get it in, and it can rust the tang. But having watched lots of Todd's videos on YouTube, this might be kind of a historical thing. So Todd talks in his videos quite a lot about how historically, if you can't see it, they didn't really pay attention to it. So even in this dagger, everything that is visible, you can see the rondels, the beam block, the grip, it's decorated in some way. There's small things. The beam block has some lines. There's this serration thing going on around the rondels. There's the studs in the grip, and even the sheath has some tooling. But then this small piece here, which you can't see if the dagger is in its sheath, so basically if you carry it around, no one's going to see it, then there's this imperfection. So I usually don't like stuff like this, but if it can be historically justified, I think it's fine. And I like Todd's take on making items like this. I like that he tries to make them feel and look historical, and this maybe adds to it. So I can't say for sure. I haven't seen an exact video talking about this exact piece and talking about this exact thing here. I'm just making a guess. This just might be a cost-saving thing. Who knows? But it also, at least in my mind, plays to this historical feel of the beast. So make up your own mind. If you really don't like this kind of things, know that it is there. Finally, the sheath. So, as said, it's wedged and leather. More specifically, I think it's 2 layers of leather, quite thick leather, with a metal shape, which again I think is brass, but don't hold me to that. It also has straps, so you can tie it any way you want, be it your belt, or if there's points made for it on your armor or something like that, you can then attach it to your harness. As said, only leather, so no wood lining. I would personally like wood lining so the dagger wouldn't cut through the leather. So if you actually like hone the edge, especially if you also sharpen the false edge, it's at some point going to cut through the leather, no matter how thick it is or how good quality it is. However, it's historical construction as far as I'm aware. So again, not specialist in historical daggers, especially in the sheets of the historical daggers, but to my understanding, a simple only leather sheath was common. They also did wood-lined ones and some different types, but as far as I'm aware, it's historical, so yeah. So, as said, leather, which also means that it's flexible. So other than cutting through it, you're not going to accidentally break it or anything like that. Again, for the visible parts, so the front, it has some simple tooling, so some decoration, which again I think is quite a historical thing to my knowledge. So as with the rondels, as with the pin block, as with the handle or the grip, every visible part is decorated. Then again, on the back side, there's just a simple stitching. The stitching is not even colored to match the dagger. And when I say simple, I don't mean poorly made. It's just stitching. It's made to hold the sheet together, and it's just structural. It's not meant to look nice. It's just meant to do its job. So as kind of a final going over this piece before we go to the handling and other stuff, what I'd say, it's really high quality. Everything is well made. There's no like sloppy construction or hastily made parts or anything. It's simple, but there's no errant tool marks. It's clean. The only thing which looks kinda crappy to me is the visible slot for the tang in the front rondo. But as said, I don't mind it in this context, as I don't know if I want to think it as a historical thing because it's there and I just want to be happier with the piece, or if it's just that I kinda like it. The same goes for the non-decorated back of the sheet and stuff like that, but everything is cleanly and nicely made and the piece is really solid. So there's no criticism on the construction of the piece itself. So now do the usability slash handling slash stuff like that part of this review. Again, as I said in the disclaimer section of this review, I'm really in no way a expert or specialist in daggers and their usage. I have a really superficial knowledge of how these are or actually were used in medieval combat, so I know the basics but don't really hold to me in being able to use one. But as said, as the closing words of the overview part, this is a really solidly made piece. It also feels solid in hand, so when you take it, it doesn't feel like a toy, it feels like a weapon. It's sturdy and it gives you confidence that if you really would need to stab someone in armor, with this it would hold. So this piece feels like it's made to be used. I think that's a good word. It feels like it's made to be used. Now to the point I quickly glanced over when talking about the grip, how it feels to hold. So even the webpage says that it doesn't feel as bad in the hand as you think it will, and I would have to agree. It feels okay. So there's just enough space for your hand, either in, well, this kind of a grip or the reverse grip. My hands are wide-ish, so even I can comfortably get them in. And yeah, I can feel the studs. They don't feel like nice. It would feel more comfortable if they weren't there, that's for sure. But it also feels like that it's not going to go anywhere. Like, if I take a hold of this dagger, it's not going to slip out of my hand. So it's a balancing act. This has clearly been balanced on the giving a good grip. So even without a glove, I don't think I would injure myself using this. I wouldn't want to go through a lesson for 60 minutes using this, for example. Not that you should ever do that, please. I think this is quite dangerous as a training tool in paid exercise, anything like that. So at least I wouldn't recommend it. But I wouldn't want to use this for a prolonged time, at least without gloves. If you were in a situation where you need to use this kind of dagger to fight, you'd probably be using it for maybe a minute or so, and then either you are dead or the other guy is dead, or the situation is resolved some other way, and you'd drop the dagger or shield it back or something like that, so you wouldn't be using it for all 60 minutes. If I'd have a leather glove, I think I actually would be able to use it for quite a long time. So yeah. But as said, gives a really, really good purchase on the grip. It's not going anywhere, it's not going to sleep, it's not going to rotate in your hand. It's going to stay where you put it, how you put it, and then you can just concentrate on stabbing your opponent or whatever you're trying to stab. However, the grip is quite round, so I really can't tell the edge alignment or how which way the blade is in my hand from from the grip itself. So I would personally like if there was a bit more shape to the grip, but I don't really think, on the other hand, that there's necessarily need for that. It is mainly a stabbing implement, so there's a point and you want to drive that point through something, and you don't really need to have an alignment for that. Though if you really need to, I don't know, cut some points on plate armor or something like that, then you would like to know about the edges. So if there's a minus on this grip, I'd say it's too round for my taste. I would like to have some shape there, which would allow me to align the edge. If you plan on buying this dagger so you can do some solo drills for prolonged times, either I'd say consider another dagger, as it would probably be more comfortable to use, or at least be prepared to use a glove with it. Then shortly about the purchase experience. Disclaimer at this point, I bought this before Brexit. So I live in Finland, Todd's located in UK. For the Americans, you can actually, I think, buy at least some of his daggers from Cult of Athena, but at least for the European customers, there's definitely probably some changes now after the Brexit. Let's start with the shipping/packaging. So the dagger came in this tube. It's really solid. It's not going to collapse, not going to let the dagger break in transit. And the end caps, they're stapled in. So actually trying to get the package open was quite an effort. And that's good. Don't take it as a negative thing. I think it's good that it takes effort to open the package, because then it's not going to accidentally open during transit. So shipping and packaging, 5 out of 5, great job. Again, quite fast, so can't remember exactly the dates, how long it took, or what the shipping costs were, but based on the fact that I don't remember, it means that it wasn't anything unexpected. Check their website, probably there's better information there. Then the customer support. So in addition to this purchase, I've dealt with Todd a few times before, and I have to say it's pretty easy to deal with them. They answer emails not like super fast, but fast enough, so they answer the emails within a day or two. One of my purchases earlier was delayed, and they basically sent me an email, said, sorry, we hoped we could get this stuff done before the thing which caused the delay. Not going to happen, sorry about this. Our new estimate is here and then, and for the inconvenience we are going to give you a small discount. Yeah, good customer service, no problems whatsoever. Like, yeah, nothing special. I think that's how I presume good customer service works. They answer your mails, they inform you if there are any delays or any issues, and if there are delays, they might give some compensation. And even that I don't really expect from companies. Like, delays are more or less, I'd presume them happen every now and then. So for small delays, I wouldn't even expect to get any compensation, but I got, which is nice. The whole experience of purchasing the item, the web shop works nicely. It's easy to use, easy to purchase. You can choose the currency you want, all the prices of the items update when you choose your currency. So I think the base prices are calculated in pounds, British pounds, because they are even numbers. So 105 pounds for the dagger and so on. And then when you choose whatever your currency is, US dollars, euros, something different, there's quite a list of different currencies. It updates, and so it gives you an quite close estimate of your order. So all in all, I'd say I'm happy with my order. I'm happy with the experience. I'd be ready to order from Todd again. So conclusions. So really fast conclusion before I go babbling for more details. I'm really happy with the dagger, and I can recommend it without a doubt for anyone who wants a really good historically accurate dagger. So there you go. If you're not interested for more details, now's the time. You can leave a like and just stop watching this video. But for the more specifics, firstly, I really like that these are historically accurate. These are made to, they're not specific recreations of a specific historical item, but they are based on historical items. So they are historically accurate. They fit some specific style of a dagger, specific time in history and so on. They are really affordable, so the price point is really low. From the general Todd Cutler line, this is, I think, somewhere in the mid-range. I think I've seen some cheaper daggers there, but there are also more expensive options. But they are, I think, somewhere around the 100 pound, bit both sides of that. So you get a sheath and a dagger for 100 some odd pounds. That's a really good deal for this quality. About the quality, this is not a one-off amazing lucky purchase and just happens to be really good quality. I've had a bunch of Todd Cutler daggers go through my hands. So Todd Cutler sponsored HLO, Helsinki Longsword Open, I can't remember which year, but some years past, with a bunch of his daggers from the Todd Cutler line. And as I was the main organizer of that event that year, I had the possibility to handle all of those daggers. And I can say that from all the daggers I've handled, they all share the same high quality this piece has. So I could really confidently say that if you purchase a dagger from Todd Cutler, it's going to be a really high quality, well-made dagger. Doing business with Todd through their website and receiving the dagger, it's easy, no problems whatsoever. So yes, I can really recommend that if you want a good historical dagger, either this one or some other specific model Todd has on offer on the Todd Cutler line, I can recommend them. Link to the webpage for this specific piece will be in the description, so if you want one, go take a look. If you want some other dagger, go see what they have on offer and yeah, maybe purchase one. Again, not a sponsored video, I'm not getting any money from this. If you go and decide to purchase one, I'm not going to get anything from that other than your view on my YouTube video. So if you're anything like me and you like sword reviews, dagger reviews, cutting videos, other HEMA related stuff, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.